Tonight we want to talk about the politics of energy and how the West plays games that only they can win. How they make the rules that suit them and break the rules when it suits them and sit in judgment of others who don't follow their lead. Oil, nuclear, coal, all kinds of energy fuels power games. Tonight, let's focus on coal. Every time coal is brought up, India is painted as the villain. I want you to look at some of the recent headlines. This is from the Washington Post. It says, the world's second largest consumer of coal is not ready to give up despite urgent concerns about the toll it is taking on the climate. This one talks about India invoking an emergency law. This is to increase coal energy output. Rewind further and you'll see more such headlines. This one is from 2020. UN chief warns India over bad economics of coal. The UN Secretary General wanted India to dump coal. Here's another one from 2021. France 24 says India's need for cheap fuel behind its push for compromise on coal. They were talking about what happened at the climate summit, COP26. The report said India led the charge to weaken anti-coal pledges. A few months later, the war began, the one in Ukraine. Europe needed energy. Let me show you how the story changed. Britain fired up its coal plants again. So did Germany, Austria, the Netherlands, and Greece. Now who's weakening anti-coal pledges? Who is betraying the planet? Coal politics is a shining example of Western hypocrisy. They demand obedience on climate pledges. They admonish the global south for using coal. But when they themselves face an energy crunch, they fire up coal plants again. And in some instances, they even export their energy crisis. Tonight, we'll expose this hypocrisy. We'll tell you how the West is keeping its lights on at the cost of the developing world. Last year, when Russia invaded Ukraine, Europe was in a state of panic. The continent feared it will not have enough energy. There were predictions of a brutal, punishing winter. As it turned out, Europe survived. How do you think that happened? Because Europe turned to coal. Countries like Germany restarted 27 coal plants. They were shut down in the name of fighting climate change earlier. Now they're back online. Berlin wants to keep using them at least till next year, and Germany is not alone in doing this. The list of countries turning to coal includes the United Kingdom, Finland, Italy, Greece, France, Spain, Belgium, and the Netherlands. They all resorted to coal power in some form or the other. They also rationed energy. And the winter turned out to be milder than predicted, so Europe sailed through. But its double standards were obvious. When its own energy security came under threat, Europe dumped the climate promises and jumped back to coal. And here's something else that I must tell you. This involves the G7, the group of the 7 biggest economies in the world. They made a decision in May last year. The G7 decided to stop funding fossil fuel projects. At the same time, they were making appeals to West Asian powers. You may remember this awkward fist bump. That's Joe Biden meeting Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The US president wanted to make Saudi Arabia a pariah. But when global oil prices shot up, he went all the way to Riyadh to get the Saudis to pump more oil. So much for principles. Riyadh did not budge. And when diplomacy did not work, the West threw money at the problem. It bought energy supplies, whatever it could get its hands on, leaving the rest of the world to deal with shortages. Take Europe again. When Russia cut off its gas supplies, the bloc bought up whatever it could find. And guess who had to suffer? Asia, countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, the Philippines. They were left scrambling for energy. And that is how you export an energy crisis. You buy everything that's on the market, and the rest have to deal with it. Just buy everything you can, leaving others to deal with the shortages. That's exactly how we ended up with climate change in the first place. The West created the problem. It enriched itself through massive exploitation of fossil fuels. And now it is dumping the problem on the developing world. First, they push one-sided climate pledges, and then they squeeze supplies out of the energy markets. They make the rules, but don't necessarily follow them. They still remain among the worst polluters. In fact, I have some numbers. India has 17% of the world's population, but it generates just 7% of the world's carbon dioxide. Now look at the rest. The United States, less than 5% of the world's population, but the US accounts for 15% of the emissions. China is a new economic power, 18.5% of the world's population, 27% of the world's emissions. This is the rich world's climate hypocrisy. They buy and use more oil and coal while telling the developing world to rely on sunshine and wind. You see, there's no denying climate change and its implications on our world. This is serious. But unequal rules and unfair demands on others is no way to fix it. And speaking about hypocrisy, let's shift focus to the war on TikTok. It's open, it's hostile, and it's hypocritical. The West is gunning for TikTok. Over the past few weeks, it has banned TikTok across the Atlantic. On what grounds? TikTok steals data. That's what millions of TikTok users are being told, and it's a fair point. TikTok comes from China. It is owned by a company called ByteDance. And there is a legitimate threat of TikTok sharing your data with the Chinese government. So it does pose a threat. But is it alone? Don't all social media platforms steal data? Also, concerns over TikTok have been around for a while, so why is it being banned now? Tonight we'll discuss. First, let's tell you which countries are going after TikTok. The US comes first. The White House has given a deadline to government agencies, a deadline to scrub off TikTok from all federal devices and systems. It should be removed from all government devices, and this should be done in the next 30 days. Up north, Canada has blocked TikTok too. For now, the ban is only for government employees and government devices. Hear it from the horse's mouth.
We're making the decision that for government employees, for government equipment, it is better to not have them access TikTok because of the concerns that people have in terms of safety. This may be a first step. It may be the only step we need to take, but every step of the way, we're going to be making sure we're keeping Canadians safe.
Meanwhile, Canadian privacy regulators have launched an investigation. They'll probe how TikTok handles the data of its users. So more action could be coming. Across the Atlantic, TikTok is facing a hard time in Europe. The European Commission has banned the use of TikTok for all of its staff. They cannot use the app, neither on their personal nor on their corporate devices. Why has the European Commission taken this step? To protect data and increase cyber security, it says. And how many employees will be affected by this ban? More than 32,000. They've all been given a deadline. Remove TikTok from your phones, from your devices by the 15th of March. And if the US is doing it, if Canada and Europe are doing it, how can the United Kingdom not do it? Surprisingly though, London is yet to join the banned TikTok bandwagon, but it's under pressure to hop on. And soon it might. Lawmakers in the ruling Conservative Party want action against the Chinese app. In fact, I have a quote from the chair of the House of Commons Foreign Affairs Committee. This is what he says. "We run the risk of being marooned as a tech security laggard among free and open nations." So London's case is that of FOMO, fear of missing out, which brings us back to the question, why is the West coming together to take on TikTok? Their big concern is the Chinese law, a law that requires all Chinese companies to assist the government when asked to. And assist how? Well, in the case of tech companies, assist by providing any and all data that Beijing wants. What's worse, last year TikTok made an admission. It said that some of its staff in China could access user data. So if the Chinese government asks for data, TikTok will have to give it. And how much data are we talking about? Data 1 billion users. In the US alone, TikTok has over 113 million active users. In Canada, about 8.3 million people, and around 26% of all adults are on TikTok. What about Europe? As of last year, about 228 million people in Europe were using TikTok. The growth of this app has been phenomenal. After its global launch, it took just 9 months to add 100 million users. 9 months for 100 million users for TikTok. Do you know how long it took for Instagram to achieve that? 2.5 years. What about revenues? TikTok's revenues are projected to hit $18 billion this year. That will be a jump of 55% from last year. By 2024, TikTok's revenues could reach $23 billion. And that's still nowhere close to the hundreds of billions that Meta and Google mint. But it's a threat nonetheless. It's a threat to American tech companies. Meta, for example, has a lot of reasons to worry. Last year, Meta's ad revenue fell for the first time since 2012. Meta, like many other Silicon Valley giants, sees TikTok as an existential threat, a threat that must be neutralized. Do you know what Meta has been doing about it? Lobbying against TikTok. And this lobbying campaign specifically targets TikTok for its handling of user data. In response, TikTok has hired lobbyists of its own, at least 40 of them, 40. In America, that's the way to influence policy and public opinion. Nobody asks about conflict of interest. All you have to do is to lobby lawmakers. It's all legal. And honestly, the concerns about TikTok are not exaggerated. But the Western response, especially the American response, does look motivated. Is it really about data security? Or is it to secure the business interests of Silicon Valley players? The West can learn from India, perhaps. India banned TikTok way back in 2020, a blanket ban, but its reasons were quite different. It was done to punish China right after the violent Galwan Valley clashes. And TikTok was not the only Chinese app to be banned. Hundreds of Chinese apps faced action in India. But coming back to the case of the West, yes, your data might not be safe with TikTok, but is it safe with American tech companies? If you believe that, I've got a rock to sell to you. Not only do American big tech giants have access to users' data, they even sell this data to third-party clients. That is how you see personalized ads and content on Facebook, Instagram, and Google. But the US is not bothered about domestic thieves. It has identified the enemy, and it's TikTok. Now, those of us in India might be forgiven for thinking that winter is over, but that's not the case in other parts of the world. The last week has seen parts of the US covered in layers of snow. Both the east and west coasts are battling winter storms. Snow and icy rains are leaving American cities without power. Flights have been cancelled, roads are blocked, parts of the country are at a standstill. Across the Atlantic, snow is gathering in Spain as well. From Barcelona to Ibiza, winter storms are disrupting daily life. A bit further east in Croatia, hundreds have been left stranded due to the snowstorms. Our next report brings you their chilling tales.
A winter wonderland and a frozen wasteland. That's how parts of the US are being described. Winter storms are engulfing parts of the country. Some cityscapes resemble snow globes. Others resemble scenes from climate disaster movies. The snow is piling up in both the east and the west. These scenes are from Los Angeles in California. Inches of snow piling up outside houses, rooftops draped in an icy veil. The iconic Hollywood sign was shrouded in fog as the frigid storm doused the usually sunny LA. Some of America's wildlife is enjoying the snow. Animals were seen frolicking at an Oregon zoo. Bald eagles shook off the snow as they emerged from their nests. But many American people aren't having a great time.
So there's a dude who does the forecasts, and today he wrote like Armageddon, ? Because it looks like there's more snow, but who knows? Unpredictable.
The winter storm cut power lines across California. Thousands were left without electricity over the weekend. The heavy rains caused landslides. Overflowing rivers have swept away mobile homes, and the winds have caused trees to fall over and damage property.
The first time I've seen big trees like this falling down, and so many of them. Branches, the park over here has a bunch of big branches falling down. And the night that this happened, the wind was just howling.
In Nevada, strong winds and unending snow mean bulldozers are needed to clear the roads. On the other side of the country, a monster storm hammered Boston. All across the country, thousands of flights have been delayed or cancelled. Roads have become impassable. The storm is bringing life to a standstill. The winter storms are due to a cold mass of air coming from the Arctic. The air is heading south and bringing a cold wave with it. And the wave isn't just restricted to the US. Spain, the land of sun and siestas, has been gripped by the cold as well. Storm Juliet has frozen the usually balmy Barcelona. Temperatures have fallen to about minus 18 degrees in the Catalonia region. 30 provinces in the country are under a cold weather alert. The winter storm has even reached Spain's Balearic Islands in the Mediterranean. Strong winds and huge waves are buffeting the tourist locales of Mallorca and Ibiza. Speaking of tourism hotspots, Croatia is under the snow as well. A storm over the weekend cut off parts of the country. hundreds were left stranded and had to camp out in their cars or cafes or shelters set up by the government.
For today, it looks like we will wait. I don't think the border will stop today. It looks like snowing still, and hopefully tomorrow. I don't know if we can leave today. I'm not sure about that.
The winter storms around the US are expected to subside this week. Things will remain frosty for a while in Spain and Croatia. Winter hasn't gone yet, and there are chances we'll see more such sights in the coming weeks.